I fell in love with Tammy at Unitarian Universalist summer camp in Murray Grove, UU Center, located by the New Jersey shore. I think it was 1973, when I was just 16 years old. At camp the year before, I'd been attracted to Ivy after slow dancing in a tight embrace to the song Stairway to Heaven. Let that sit in your imagination. But I didn't say anything to her, and she wasn't back that year. This time, I wanted to develop a personal relationship with Tammy to experience the intimacy I desired with her. Back then, there was an old brick church on the property that had a bell tower that could be accessed by climbing a ladder. I invited Tammy to go up there so we could be alone, and I could share my love for her without fear of interruption. To my dismay, she did not share my feelings and wasn't interested in having an exclusive relationship with me. I was devastated and teared up, but I held my disappointment in, and I said I understood and didn't want to put any pressure on her. After she climbed down the ladder and left, I stayed a little longer to try to compose myself. And suddenly I had this powerful moment of insight. For me to love Tammy, I didn't need to have an exclusive commitment from her. I could still love her without being in a relationship with her. In that moment, I had a small taste of what unconditional love feels like. We're in the season of love right now with Valentine's Day coming up on Friday. Valentine's Day is also my birthday, which connects me to the event. My healthy birth without any complications was a beautiful Valentine's Day present to my mother and father. It's also kind of kept me connected to the theme of love. Love has always been a theme in just about every religion. On surveys, UUs consistently rank love as a top value in our congregations. Yet references to love are absent from our 7 principles. Love was relegated to references to the sources as one of the many inspirations that support our principles. With our new Article 2 statement, love is now at the center. Given the wide diversity of ways the word love is used, the question arises, just what is this love anyway? Especially when the L gets capitalized. Is this just a way to sneak God into the center of Unitarian Universalism? After all, the Gospel of John makes it clear in chapter 4. Anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. And God is love. And whoever abides in love abides in God, and God abides in him. The reason I stand before you today as an ordained and fellowshipped Unitarian Universalist minister is because of the transformative power of love in my life that was not connected to Christianity. I'd like to share 3 examples of love that changed my life and helped me know love from the inside. The first happened during a very stressful period of my life, time in February of 1980. and I was a student at that time at UC Berkeley. I'd planned with a fellow student that we would meet and play chess at a weekly rated chess match held in downtown Berkeley at the YMCA. She stood me up. And I was paired to play with someone who was a much stronger player than I am. I also had not played much chess since I'd been on the chess team in high school. I played a lot of chess when I was growing up and had a rating of about 1,400, which is a little better than average. And I figured that I wouldn't have a chance against the person I was paired with, so I just kind of relaxed and said, maybe I can learn something that will improve my play. Instead, I had the very odd experience that I'd never had playing chess. It felt as if the moves were selected for me, and I was being guided in playing the game. I won the game handily, and we'd written down all the moves. So we replayed the game, and I played pretty well. Maybe a little better than I normally would have played. What was important for me about this experience was its subjective nature. I had a positive feeling for my opponent that felt very unfamiliar. It was as if we were good friends, solving a chess problem together. I felt a quality of love for my opponent that didn't feel personal. It felt much bigger, more universal. As I was leaving the YMCA, I remember a very strong feeling that I had been given a gift of the experience of a spiritual kind of love. And it wasn't just for me. It was something to be shared with others. As I look back on it, it was a very clear call to ministry, which took me another 6 years to respond to. I was a staunch secular humanist at the time, and wasn't sure what to do with this experience as it didn't fit my scientific worldview. I was in a Unitarian Universalist student group that was for Berkeley students that met at Star King School for the Ministry and was led by one of the seminarians. I shared my experience with him, and he exclaimed, "Sam, you've had a religious experience." I responded, "Where were you used? We don't have those kind of experiences." Things were a little different back in 1980. Well, I recognized and reconnected with that experience a couple of weeks later at a healing circle. A member of the student group suggested that I go there to help with, at the time I had a broken leg that had a non-union. We sat in a big circle and we used our voices and imagination to send healing energy to the person in the center of the circle. That experience reconnected me with that feeling of love that I experienced playing that game of chess. That started my transformational journey to explore this dimension of life that I hadn't encountered before my tender age of 23. The symbol of that healing group that they used was a heart with wings, a symbol from the Sufi community that drew me into doing the dances of universal peace, which was called back then Sufi dancing. I attended several Sufi camps in the Mendocino Redwoods in the 1980s to do those dances and some Sufi religious practices. One very powerful experience was doing zikr, or the ceremony ritual of remembrance of Allah, by chanting together, shoulder to shoulder, swaying back and forth, La ilaha il Allah, La ilaha il Allah, which translates to, there is no God but God. The power of that experience with jazz instrumental accompaniment reconnected me again with that experience at even a deeper level of love without an object, being bathed in bliss. Through those healing circle folks, I also made the connection to Buddhist insight meditation. When I first heard about the core teachings of Buddhism, I felt an immediate response. The Buddha taught about the reality of suffering and the path to freedom from suffering. As someone with chronic health issues, I knew deeply the misery of bodily suffering and hungered for release. What I hadn't expected from sitting still was that there would be a love component to this practice that celebrates emptiness. Yet at the second week-long meditation retreat, I experienced a huge opening of my heart and love for all of my fellow meditation yogis sitting with me, even the ones who were irritating because they couldn't sit still and be quiet. I had a new name for this love from the Buddhist tradition, metta, or loving kindness, often compared to the love that a mother has for a child. But also it had a dimension of love for those suffering called karuna, or compassion. And there was yet another dimension of this love, celebrating another's success or joy, called mudita, or sympathetic joy. All these experiences I'm describing did not arise from concepts of love, but rather from the lived human experience of love. The words found for those experiences would have been alien to me had someone talked to me about them before these experiences had happened to me. Yet once I had had them, they began connecting and affirming each other. And they connected empathetically with Christian expressions of love of Jesus from my devout Catholic sister-in-law. So for me, putting love at the center of Unitarian Universalism centers a human experience of a greater love that doesn't have an object, such as another person, but a generalized feeling of loving kindness that can be conceptualized, but also has a bodily component. And my confidence in its reality comes from personal experience of the transformative power it has. One place among many I felt love's transformative power is in doing anti-racism work. I remember vividly watching UUA leaders discussing that work at a UUA General Assembly. At the 1993 General Assembly in Charlotte, North Carolina, the GA Planning Committee had decided to have a Southern ball and invited everyone to come in period costume. They had no clue, or weren't listening to the people who did, that this might be offensive to Black people. What period costume would be appropriate for them? Rags and chains? There was a big protest, and it blew up into a huge controversy. This led to a diversity day at the GA in 1995. What I remember, and I have video of this, was how some of the GA planning committee people had been transformed by that controversy, examining their own latent racist actions and experiencing personal breakthroughs that shone from the podium. The transforming power of love was working to heal them, to heal the harm, and was opening a new way forward in our tradition. Today, somewhat woke, white-identified people like me are much more aware of the ubiquitous white supremacy culture that all of us are swimming in, and our current president is working very hard to reestablish again. Back in 2017, Robin DiAngelo, UUA Beacon Press author and at that time General Assembly presenter, had given us a crash course in the depth and width of the racist problem in America that is rooted in the founding of our nation. I remember how depressing it was to hear from her that I shouldn't expect to ever be free from the racist social conditioning pervasive in American society. I would have to accept that I would be inadvertently causing harm to people who are marginalized through actions like microaggressions. My good intentions wouldn't matter because the impact would be harmful. I remember how sad and frustrated I was, thinking of myself as an ignorant monster, unable to control my ability to cause harm. Yet the case she made and conversations with Black leaders in the UUA forced me to concede her conclusions seemed inescapable. That's when I had my breakthrough. I realized, yes, my words and actions can cause harm, unintended harm. And what happens next matters a great deal. When I hear ouch from another person, I can pause, can listen, reflect, and seek to connect again, recognize the harm done, and seek to repair that harm. I can allow love to guide me through the hard night and grow and develop my humanity. None of us are perfectly whole, loving, caring human beings. We all have been wounded. We all have limitations. Racism is just one of the toxic social systems that plague our nation, along with sexism, elitism, and ableism. The question when the issue of harm is on the table is how everyone brings love from every direction to find the way to healing and reconciliation. And that healing can happen along with inner and outer transformation. Love has the power to facilitate that transformation that can liberate us all. I hope you're getting a sense of why, for me, putting love at the center of Unitarian Universalism is so important and powerful and transformational. This love isn't just a social lubricant so we can all get along with each other. It can be a driving force in our justice work. Love for our planet. Felt love for our planet, for the beauty of the planet, for its diversity, and the delicate ecological balance that sustains life can animate our resistance to the impacts of climate change. Love for our neighbors who can't afford food, shelter, medical care, providing for their families, drives our advocacy for economic justice and health care for all. Love for prisoners striving to create new lives, abused by the punitive system of incarceration. Love for those in the developing world and indigenous people right here at home, suffering the effects of extractive capitalism, resisting refineries, toxic mining methods, and dangerous pipelines. Love can sustain us in this work the way hatred cannot. In our congregational life, keeping love at the center means recognizing this quality and capacity in each other as we work on committees and teams. It means nurturing this quality and capacity in our children and our youth. And your worship team each Sunday morning strives to connect to it in all of our hearts. And if you'd like to have a meaningful and enjoyable Valentine's Day celebration, be sure to connect with the transforming power of love. So be it.